So the Boston gossip columnists have been on this Gisele Tom fighting shit for a couple of years. And I talked to somebody who kind of plays in that circle, and he's like, yeah, I mean, he made promises and he backed out of the promises and she's pissed off. And it's weird, Ryan, because I'm not a story breaker. Like Shams does that better than us. You're very good at it. But like there are stories I don't really want to talk about. And I really don't want to talk about Tom and Gisele because marriage is hard and mine's good and it's not easy. And I think to myself, what if Brady caught me talking about it? Yeah, now that may be delusional, but he used me in some documentary piece, right? And I'm like, so he's heard of me. What if he's dancing around the TV and I'm talking about Tom Brady's marriage? And I'm like, it'd be fucking embarrassing if in 10 years I run into him in a golf tournament. Am I being weird? I just don't want to talk about his marriage.
I think you're being a little weird. Like, I wouldn't say, hey, you're wrong. That should be your open 3 days this week. If I were your producer, I wouldn't be like, you're talking. Because I had heard about it too. But I go, I'm not really interested in that part of it. I mean, if I had to do a segment on it, I would say, oh, you're mad you're married to the best quarterback of all time, and he's the most competitive person maybe ever, and he's decided, hey, I'm still really good at this and I want to keep playing when the season's like 5 months. So again, that's me maybe being a guy. I'm like, hey, you could date somebody in sales, So but again, I don't know that I would do that. Maybe I just did a little bit. We're at a weird, this is actually really interesting because I think we're at a weird like intersection of like, should we have more sympathy now? Because there's more awareness, there's more sympathy with public figures in sports. I was talking to somebody about one of the tennis stories the other day, and I was kind of like, yeah, I mean, this is consumed differently. If you say publicly, hey, I'm struggling with these things, sure, you find criticism everywhere, but there seems to be less of it of the public people, of in the media. There's more sympathy towards it. And I think a byproduct of that is, as long as this is simply a family story and it doesn't impact the football at all, I think all of us would have real hesitation to be like, what do I build the topic? Like, what's the topic? How am I doing this where the listener's like, oh, cool, here's a different take or a new spin on this. So I think a lot of us would still love to operate with some respect to a family thing, but sometimes it's in a lane that we have to address it. I don't know.
I was watching them in preseason. So who were they playing I went on vacation. So it was right before I went on vacation. He played a couple series.
You're on vacation a lot recently.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot. Rhode Island. Shit. People aren't happy where I work. So, but I watched him on a couple series. And I'm just sitting there casually watching it with a cocktail. And I'm like, shit, man. He is freaking good.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, seriously, crisp, accurate. I mean, like
the pop on his arm.
It's sick. Ryan, I'm watching all these people are freaking out. Ooh, look at what Brock Purdy can do. And I'm like, Brock Purdy, you can fit him into his back pocket. He's tiny. And I'm watching Brady. I'm like 6'5", big arm, accurate pre-snap weapons. Like, I get it. Listen, I don't want to be one of these guys, like with an 8, the first number of my age. I will not be on the air. But dude, if I was 69 and I'm still like having a ball and I'm doing this and we're laughing, then I'm going to keep doing it. And Ann's going to go, hey, what about me? And I'm going to say, it's not a terrible life. We've created a great life. I'm just not available on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm talking to Ryen Russillo. It's like I watched that preseason game and I'm like, shit, man. He's still great, right?
Totally with you. And, any of us that have been lucky enough to have friends that have played sports, one of the biggest things is they all want to keep trying to play as long as they possibly can. And it's funny too. It's like, this is the same thing. It happens in our industry, but I do think it happens in life. When you're young, this sounds very simplistic, but being part of being young is not knowing any better. So when you're a young athlete, you're like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be one of those guys. And it's like, you have no idea where your head is going to be at 35. One of our college roommates told a story. He had a thing going on, super rough night out, and he did something and his wife got really mad at him. And we were like, when we were in college, did we ever think that you'd be 47 having that kind of night out? And he was like, no. He goes, but every now and then, it's going to happen, because I still like to have a good time. And when people talk about our industry, he's like, hey, I don't want to be that guy who's over 50. Like when you're 28, you think 50 is so old. And I think the same thing has happened here for Brady. Like, I never thought he'd be able to do this. He changes everything the way I have to think about athletes playing that are a little bit older. Now, I think his pliability is part of it. I think the fact that he found a way to play this extremely dangerous position by constantly getting rid of the football and not taking those kill shots. He's just the lack of the accumulation of effect of being hit like that. It makes me kind of change, like, how open of a mind do I have to have about like who LeBron can be moving forward. But it's really easy to assume that how you're going to think when you're 20 years older. But the thing is you're usually always wrong. And most of us, when we're in that, when we are older, we don't go, oh, wait, I feel the exact same way now. Like, it sucks to do nothing. I don't want to do nothing at any point in my life.
Dude, I sleep 7 hours a day. I'm at work for 6 to noon. That's 13 hours. I have 11 left. I nap for 40 minutes. I work out for about 50.
Nice.
Every other day I do a podcast. I'm sitting around every day thinking, I'm going to go to the YouTube channel. That's what my kids do. Like, at some point, Brady's like, retire to what? I got kids. By 13, 14, Ryan, they don't want to hang out with you all day. They just don't.